Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Strength and Recovery podcast. We are sitting down today with Allison. Allison is an alum of our Bracebridge Hall in Earlville, Maryland facility. And we are actually at Capital Region, which is closer to where she lives and where she is an integral part of our Alumni Association. And we're getting ready for Alumni Night. It's Thursday night at Capital Region, and every Thursday night our alums come back to this facility and have an amazing meeting where they just check in with one another, provide a lot of fellowship and support. And so these support group meetings are a lifeline for our alums, and especially during early recovery. And we're so grateful that Allison has been a part of this now for how long?
I entered into Bracebridge on March 18th. So March 19th of 22 is my sobriety date.
Wow. And then moved back home, which is closer
Came back home where my job and everything was, and that's when I made contact with the local one here, Capital Region, and met L'Oreal for an alumni outing. We had gone to the Discovery Room over in Alexandria, the escape room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I joined them over there. My daughter went with me. And I that's when I got to know everybody here and just dove in here.
And those sober events are open to anyone in recovery.
Yes.
And just provide a sense of community. And if you are looking for like-minded individuals, this is a great place to do it. So we're so grateful that you've been a part of that. And you've been active ever since.
Yes, I have. I've actually gone back up to Bracebridge a couple times and done events with them as well.
Yeah.
It's fun to get together with people who you've met through the year. I'm coming up on 22 months of sobriety.
Wow. Congratulations.
So it's fun to get back with people who you've met throughout your journey, and see that they're still struggling and making it right alongside you.
A lot has happened in 22 months.
Yes.
And I think one of the things I've heard you speak about before and is really impactful is the change you made in your job to be able to maintain sobriety. You were a first responder, so to speak.
Yes.
And will you tell us a little bit about that?
I was a first responder here in Charles County for 27 years. Responding day and night, on call all the time. Whatever the sheriff's office needed, we would go in, recover the animals out of the places, different scenes. 27 years of rescue.
Yeah, and you did animal rescue.
Animal rescue, yeah.
And people don't think of that as a first responder in the same way. But it very much is.
Yes. When they have any kind of a scene that they're dealing with, if there's an animal present,
crime
animal
scene,
controls,
accident scenes.
Yes, anything. Suicide scenes, accident scenes, drunk drivers at night. We were all through the night coming out. That you had a 45-minute response time from the time of the wake-up call.
Wow.
During the night. And you were on call for a week at a time.
And how does that impact your sleep?
Yes, sleep deprived, very much. Even on a normal day when you're not even on call, you're on your way home, 4 o'clock comes around, you're on your way home, and there's either an aggressive dog or somebody being chased or somebody had an accident or somebody hit an animal. You don't go home on time. Very rarely we got home on time. You were always working, and it just, people don't think of animal control as that first responder. And, it eventually played a toll on me.
And being a witness to that amount of trauma.
Yes. I did not know what damage I was doing, until I reached out to get some counseling. because I didn't know what was going on. It was a normal thing that we would go home and have a drink to relax from the day, and the only way I could describe it was I felt like I was going insane.
Wow.
Just day in and day out. You come home, have a drink to relax, and one drink turned into another, and it eventually was spiraling out of hand. And I didn't know how to go back or what to do or what was even wrong. I didn't know until I reached out to a psychiatrist, and she referred to my job as a dysfunctional relationship, as traumatic, as a traumatic job, and that it, I never thought of it like that.
And you're such, if I know anything about you,
Yeah.
I mean, we've run into, I've heard you speak,
Yeah.
we've been involved in this alumni association. You are an animal
Yes.
lover.
Yes, definitely. And that was my job. That was my life.
And
You
so to
know,
see
to rescue and rehome and adopt these animals back out,
and so feeling like you have a job you're passionate about.
Right.
But then also, on the other hand, realizing I'm passionate about this, but it's also taking a toll.
Definitely, yeah.
And that had to be a tough time.
And, it's, when it was brought to my attention, I was like, wow, okay, maybe we're onto something here. And then, when she diagnosed me with the PTSD from the job, I was like, wow, okay. So then I started paying more attention to things that were going on. And, finally that night in March, my children actually came home, and they asked me to go to rehab.
Wow. So that was a night in March. Were you intoxicated at that point?
I was. There was a very large case, which involved a deceased party, and after I finished that case, I proceeded to drink for the next 4 days. And, when my kids finally, had a talk with me, and were like, Mom, your things have been getting out of control, and something needed to change. It was definitely a wake-up call that something really needed to change, and I still didn't know what, So.
And you weren't never relating this back to the job at that point?
No, not at all.
And just, this is life?
Yeah, this is life. This was regular. You dealt with it during the day, and you tried to relax at night, and, it gnawed on you all night long.
And for a while, it worked.
Yeah, for a while. For a long while, it worked, until it just wasn't working anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what or how to fix it.
Yeah. And so, are you even thinking at that point that the alcohol is a problem?
No, not at all.
So what was your reaction then when they say, Mom, you need to go to rehab? I mean...
I was like, how do you guys know about rehab, I don't even know where it came from. Maybe I had said it at one point that... Because, I started looking into it. I was like, well, maybe I should cut back. Maybe I should, only drink this time. And I was doing different things and trying different things. And every time it just led right back to my same pattern over and over every night.
And, I mean, are doctors noticing? Are there any?
No,
are the consequences?
No, I mean, it just, I was talking to my doctor at the time. I had just had a physical, and we went over everything, my blood work, and he, I'd been waiting over the years for him to say something, because I always had to have a physical for the job. And he never did, and this time he did. He was like, how much are you actually drinking? And I lied again, and I knew that they probably didn't believe me. But he showed me the blood work and showed me all the numbers that were leading to them knowing the truth, that I was drinking a lot. It was more than a pint a night. It was, what started out as a drink and having a few more drinks on the weekends became a every night thing. And it played a toll on my body. I had developed, with my feet, the neuropathy, which was starting to affect my job. And, things just, seemed like I was always at the doctor sick.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
You're crying out for help that whole time, just hoping somebody...
Hoping that, I kind of hoped that the doctor would find out.
Calling
probably.
On it.
Yeah, come to think of it, But yeah, he went over the blood work, and he's like, something needs to change. And within a week, I remember that Friday morning on the 18th, I went in and I got a B12 shot because my body was so deficient in so many different vitamins. They were treating me with, all these different vitamins because my body wasn't producing them anymore because I wasn't really eating. I was drinking all my calories. And I told him that I was leaving that afternoon. And my doctor's actually, he used to be involved in the police department. And he made the comment, that you're not the first officer that I sent to rehab, and you won't be the last. And I took that with a grain of salt, and I left and headed up to Earlville.
Yeah. And so it was your kids pretty much that said,
pretty much, yeah.
And
that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean,
and was there a confrontation? Because it takes a lot.
It was it was actually through text messaging,
Yeah. There might be some family members listening, and they're saying, "Mom's got a problem," or "My kid has a problem." How? And I'm not sure what they're going to say. And I think what you've uncovered here for me and for them is like, you're really hoping someone is going to call you on this.
Yep, exactly. I mean, and even now when I talk to people, nobody knew what I was drinking. Wow. Nobody knew that I was drinking when I was drinking. I mean, they had no clue how much. They had no clue that it was every day. And I've talked to everybody. I mean, even when I told my mom that I was leaving for rehab, she looked at me and she's like, "But Allison, you don't drink." And I'm pretty close to my mom. And, nobody knew.
And so it's not like you've got a string of DUIs.
No, I had a lot of not yets.
Yeah. A
lot of them. And when my kids said that to me, it's like my life flashed before my eyes.
Wow.
I'm a single mom. They all live under my roof. They're all adults now. But, what if I lose my job? Then I'm going to lose my house. Then I'm going to lose everything. And I couldn't take that risk.
Yeah.
And now that my children are seeing, something that I thought I wasn't affecting anybody but myself was actually affecting other people.
So how do you find RCA? Or like, okay, they say, "Mom, you need to go to rehab." What's the process like from that moment?
From that moment, I had a friend that used to hang out drinking with me, and I hadn't seen her in a couple years. And I called her and I said, "Look, I think you've gone through this too, but I need help." And she told me to call. She said, "Honey, call this number and let me know what happens, and I'll drive you there." And I said, "Okay." And
the power of an alum.
Yes.
Alumni.
Yes.
Somebody who's been there.
It's the only person. I had nobody to call. I didn't know about AA. I didn't know about a 12-step program. I do come from a long line of alcoholics, but it was never talked about in my family. My parents didn't drink. Till I was born, they were done with all of that. And they had kind of gotten out of that, broke that cycle from their families. And, I'm the baby of 3, and it was all just a normal social drinking growing up. And, till I reached out and asked her, and I didn't know about any of these chains of, let alone RCA. And I just thank God that, that's the phone call that I made. When I Googled rehab, that's what came up and that's what I got. And when I made that phone call to them, they said, okay, we've got a bed free. Do you need a ride? Or can you? I said, no, I've got a friend who's going to take me. And she said, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. And I said, no, I can't do that.
Wait a minute. No, we're pretty quick on the draw.
Back up.
We know that window
Yes.
is pretty narrow sometimes.
I was actually on call, and I said I can't until Friday, But then even then I told them that I could only come in for a couple days, because I was thinking, okay, get away from the alcohol for a couple days, and then I'd be fine.
Yeah.
I just get it out of my system for a couple days and come home, and I will be fine. And little did I know, that the program that I was about to enter into, and even, I said, okay, and I finally agreed to like a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, fine. But then I've got to get out because I'm taking my kids to Florida for a concert.
Yeah.
We're having a family reunion down in Florida. I've got to get out of there.
And so many people think if I can just get the alcohol or the substance out of my body, then I'm good.
I can get back to normal.
But that misses the whole picture of what's going on.
Exactly.
In the mind, and then it's body, mind, and spirit, right? And so how it's affecting, getting it out of your system can just be the beginning.
Yep.
So you get to Bracebridge. Is there a point when you go, okay, this was bigger than just...
No. I got in my room, and I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, and that's when it hit me. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I grabbed a journal out and started journaling, and I wrote a couple pages. And I still look back to those pages, and it's what have you done? Now what are you going to do? You're how many hours from home? What are you going to do now? And I was like, all right, let me go find some people. So I came out, and I was given a schedule, and I saw an orientation meeting on the schedule. And I said, okay, let me go to that, and that way I can figure out where I am, what I'm doing, and what is expected of me. So I went to that first alumni meeting, and that's when I found out about the program and what it was going to involve. And that's actually when I found out how serious detox was, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a matter of, okay, now I need to drink some water and flush it out. And they explained to me that if I started feeling different ways in certain ways, to go to the nursing. And that evening,
withdrawing from alcohol can be very dangerous, life-threatening.
That evening, I was in nursing.
Wow.
And I remember going in there, and I was sitting in the chair, and they were doing my the vitals and everything. And there was a girl there. I call her a little girl because I'm old, and she was only probably 17. And she just gave me a hug and welcomed me, And, I knew then that I was like, wow, there's such life in this girl, And after that, I went through the detox and got to meet all these people, and there was, they weren't just dragging along step by step, they were, so I dove in. I went to every single class, I was like, okay, I got to find out what this is all about.
You got to figure this
because
out.
I have no clue what I'm getting into. I proceeded to, from sun up to sundown, after I got through the detox and everything, and I ran with it. I was 52. I needed to change something.
And so you spend your 30 days.
I did. I ended up staying. My time was coming short. She said, you said 2 weeks. You've been 2 weeks. And I was like, can I have a phone to change some appointments and talk to some people? And because I'd like to stay. So I made a phone call, and, because I was getting ready to go to Florida, so I had all these appointments, hair and nails, they were, the things we got to do. And I remember calling my hairdresser, and she answered the phone, and I was like, hey, I need to change my appointment. She said, well, I'm in the middle of Safeway. I'll call you back. And I'm like, no, you can't call me back. So I told her where I was, and she completely flipped out. Like, what? Because nobody knew.
Yeah.
Nobody had any clue. And so at that moment,
how
she changed
freeing
my
is
appointment.
that, just to be honest and to say,
I was just,
I got a problem, and I'm going to go get it taken care of it.
I'm in rehab. She was like, what? So, yeah, that was, and when I did see her, that was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So I changed all my appointments, and I did stay that
and it
30
wasn't,
days.
And it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's not.
Everybody knows somebody.
It's not at all.
And I think that's the freeing part, is just
Yes.
to say, and to watch people have compassion and watch people have empathy for you.
Right.
I think we're expecting judgment. We expect the worst.
Yeah.
And
you do.
And sometimes it's a hug.
You expect that stigmatism, and it's only there if you're going to keep it there.
Yeah.
And, my kids picked me up. I left Easter morning last year, and my kids picked me up. And they're hunters.
That would have been 2 years ago, Easter. Like 22 months.
Yes, they're hunting. They like to hunt, and Earlville's open field. And
yes,
they just fell in love with the area.
That's gorgeous out there.
And we ended up making a couple stops on the way home. And I was like, I don't care. I'm out. I'm breathing free air, and I'm headed home to start this new journey. And they took me home, and we started from there. We went on our trip and came back, and I still hadn't drank. So that's when I decided to put some apps on my phone that they had told me about and figure out if there was any meetings.
So they're like meeting finder apps.
Yeah, the meeting guide, yeah.
And you discover this whole community.
Yes, yeah, there was like meeting after meeting. I was like, holy cow.
Didn't know this existed.
I had no clue. Yeah.
And how long you start getting into your recovery, when do you make the connection that, do you go back to work at that point? I think I remember
after my vacation, I did go back to work.
I feel like I remember meeting you when you were not quite back to work yet.
Probably.
And you were a little struggling about whether you were going to go back.
Yes, I was questioning it. And then, I did go back to work because that's all I really knew.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pay the bills. So I did go back to work. I did, at that point, find some meetings, and I did the intensive outpatient,
Mm-hmm.
and then the general outpatient.
How
here.
important was GOP, IOP?
I hated it, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to do it because that was 3 days a week. I was like, that's 3 nights. How am I going to make time for making dinner and work? And, it's just, I'm not going to make time for this.
You hated the idea
I hated
of it.
the idea of it. And then I said, I've gone this far. I've got to do it. So I did it. And thank God I did. Thank God I had an open mind and the willingness to just try it.
Yeah.
Just follow. I was following the suggestions at that point. Why not continue?
And when you look back, 3 nights a week, you probably would have been drinking and not functional anyway.
Yes, exactly. And it gave me something to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to go see people and talk about similar problems.
Mm-hmm.
But I did make it to an outside meeting, and that outside meeting became my home group.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, meeting the people in the community who were there and the women around here, that's when I started, seeing the other meetings.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go back to work during that time, and I was going to meetings on my off time.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting injured in September,
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7 months into my sobriety. So I was sober when I got injured. And I was out for about 30 days from work-related injuries. And I was able to go to more meetings while I was recovering, and I was able to take my mom on a trip they just needed a driver, so I did. I drove them and had a great time with them. You know, my mom and my aunt and my uncle. And, you know, it was funny because they were all visiting family and friends, and I was driving them around, and I found myself like sightseeing, you know,
Wow.
and my mind kept wandering, and I don't know, I took it all in,
Yeah.
and I was able to remember it. I was able to enjoy it, and I was present in just the beauty of the countryside, you know.
And you start realizing there was a time that you weren't able to do that.
No, not at all. You know, it was always okay, we got to get back so I can get a drink. You know, that was always on my mind is, you know, we got to get back. I got to time this right. You know, I got to maybe take a miniature with me to get through it, you know, anything like that. But yeah, I was able to take it all in. And I had a great time, you know. And then we got back and I went back to work. And that was the 1st of October. And then in November, I had another accident. 2 dogs took me down. And I was still sober. Thank gosh for that. So I knew that injury. And it's funny because I refer to that second injury as I've always been hard-headed.
But it took...
And don't listen. and basically God was doing for me what I wasn't going to do for myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, it took 2 injuries, but God finally said enough's enough. Mm-hmm. And did for me what I wasn't able to do. And I got through the surgeries. I had my knee reconstructed and my wrist reconstructed, and I retired February 1st of this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And to realize that something you love,
Yeah,
something you're passionate about,
exactly.
may not be the right passion.
I mean, it was for a while.
Yeah.
But after a while, and it's, you know...
And knowing when to call it quits.
When to call it quits, yeah. And now, you know, I'm seeing more and more where, like, they put me in one class before I even left there, the compassion fatigue. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're starting to see that.
Yeah.
We're
getting better, right?
Yeah, these first responders really need classes and counseling and, you know, people who understand and get it out.
And just the weight of carrying all that trauma.
Yes, carrying it on their backs, and you need to get it out, and they're seeing that now.
Yeah.
So.
And now you have a new job.
Yes.
And you still get to work.
I do. I do. I actually called to get a copy of a report from my accident, and they informed me of a job that was going to be opening up and that I would be perfect for.
Wow.
And I put in for it, and I interviewed, and I got the job. And now I am I'm the rabies coordinator for the county.
So still working in the world of animals.
In the world of animals.
Helping others.
Helping others, doing investigations, go out in the field every now and then, still working with animal control very closely. You know, I see them all the time. You know, my chief just retired not long ago, too.
I think, I asked you before we started, I said, is there anything you're passionate about in recovery? And you said service.
Yes.
And service work.
Yes.
And I think your whole life has been about service.
It has.
And so that's not surprising. But what has that meant in recovery?
In recovery, you know, I have a home group. I have a service position in that home group.
You were here tonight setting up chairs.
I'm here tonight, the alumni meetings. I still come back every Thursday and, you know, help set up, help L'Oreal with anything she needs done. I do the H&I every 4th Saturday inpatient here. Mm-hmm. I speak at meetings anytime I'm asked. I went down to, is it Pyramid? Down in St. Mary's. I went down there the other night and spoke.
And speaking in front of a crowd it's not
That's
your
not my
thing,
thing.
right?
No.
Like, how did you get over that? And somebody listening to this
I really
going,
haven't yet. It's just,
you just don't say no.
you don't say no. I was taught you don't say no. And like I said, I've followed everything everybody's suggested so far, and it's working. So I'm not about to stop following the smart decisions, within reason.
22 months.
Yeah. I just bought my first car in 22 years. The things the miracles keep happening. It's amazing to me what I've seen so far, and if anything's going to compare to what I've seen so far and come in the future, I'm going to work for it every day.
It's so beautiful. We usually end with favorite recovery quote. Do you have one?
My big one is, and I had to do a lot of this, is nothing changes if nothing changes. I don't like change. I never have, and I've always been upset. All these computers coming out, and when we got computers in our trucks, I hated it. But I've learned that you have to change things.
It's really beautiful, and your story is inspiring. Thanks for sharing it here. Thanks for all the work you do with the Alumni Association, and it's always good to see you.
Good to see you when you come down here.
Thanks so much, Allison.
Thank you.
Listeners, thank you for joining us today for the Strength and Recovery podcast. If you or someone you know needs help, please call 1-833-RCA-ALUM. The Alumni Association is open to anyone pursuing recovery, whether they're affiliated with RCA or not. So come and join us for a meeting, join us for a recovery event. We'd love to have you and provide that sense of fellowship, community, and support that is so important in finding and sustaining recovery. All the best. Thank you for listening to the Strength and Recovery podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please tap the subscribe button and leave us a review. We love hearing from our listeners and hope to reach more of you out there as we continue to share these incredible stories of recovery. The RCA alumni team aims to provide a safe, supportive environment for those in the recovery community, regardless of their affiliation with RCA. We host a full calendar of virtual and in-person meetings 7 days a week, 365 days a year, as well as free SOBR events every month. To learn more about what we do, find us at rcaalumni.com. Remember, if you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, pick up the phone and dial 1-833-RCA-ALUM. Help is available 24/7. Listen to another episode now or join us next time for the Strength and Recovery podcast.